Today we'll be looking at CSS. The middle S in CSS stands for style. Thus far, you've done a little bit of styling, such as changing font color, font size, padding, margin, border, and stuff like that. All of these you did using the style attribute by placing the style attribute inside the opening tag of the element you wish to style. But trust me, this approach can get cumbersome real quick, especially when your property value pairs become a handful. Better approach is to use the style tag instead of the style attribute. The style tag gives us more control as developers over the design of our web page. Generically, CSS is a collection of rules meant to target elements on our web page in order to design or beautify our web page. CSS is more like a declaration. We can compare it to something happening when someone with superpowers pulls the stones by making a declaration. Alright, let's think of it in the light of Merlin. We know Merlin, right? Good, the epic movie Merlin. Merlin sort of makes some kind of declaration and something immediately happens that's it's supernatural. That's more like what CSS is about. Over now to our code editor. Let's get coding stuff done. Alright, so far we've styled this web page using the style attribute that is found in the opening tag of our HTML elements. But trust me, this is the least preferred way to style our web page. Do you know why? Style attribute actually gives us the avenue to design our web page elements by imputing property value pairs, all separated by semicolons. But it can really get cumbersome when these property value pairs are much more than they are right now. Okay, as they are at this point, they are inline because they all fall within the same line, just separated by semicolons. But there is a preferred and more organized way to style our web pages apart from this manner in which we did it, and that is, instead of using the style attribute, we use the style tag. The style tag helps us to separate our styling from the HTML elements, and for that reason, instead of us styling within the body section of our web page, the style tag is used in the head section of our web page. So let us get straight on with it, how we can use the style tag to design content on our web page. But first of all, permit me to delete all the styles we keyed in earlier on. We'll take out all the styles and style them again. Instead of using the style attribute, we're going to be using the style tag this time around. Okay, here we go. Go over and refresh our web page. All the styling, it's gone. Not all, the body style. Refresh. Yes, all the styling is gone right now. So we're going to repeat the styling we had right here, this time not using the style attribute, rather using the style tag. Let's see how it goes. The first thing we did was to set the background of the body from white to black, right? Let's go over to our head tag, and the style tag is an opening and closing tag, just as it is right now. So what you do in this case is just type body, then set the background color to black like it was before. Go and refresh our page. The body background color is now black, and since the heading and paragraph fonts are black in color, it got missing, like it literally disappeared off the screen. So to get it back, we can set the body font color to white. Refresh our web page. It reappears. The heading and the paragraph reappears. What other style did we apply to the web page? I remember, yeah, we set the border for the heading and the border for the paragraph. Border for the heading we set to blue, border for the paragraph, I think we set to, was it yellow? Yeah, yellow. Let's go over. Now the heading tag is H1, right? Opening and closing braces. We'll give it a border of 2 pixels solid, let's say Dodger blue. Let's go over to our web page and refresh. That is the border around the heading tag. Over to the paragraph tag. Paragraph tag is designated P, right? Opening and closing braces. Border of 2 pixels solid yellow. Good. Go over to our web page and refresh it. That's the border of 2 pixels solid yellow. Okay, what next? Comes the padding. Let's set the padding for the paragraph element because we realize that the paragraph is touching the border of the element. Yes, the paragraph is touching the border element. So to give some kind of reasonable space around, we'll set the padding, which represents internal spacing between the border and the element. Set the padding to a particular value. So we'll go to the next line. Instead of keying the declarations on one single line, just hit the enter key, go to the next line and set the padding to say 25 pixels. Refresh. That's a padding of 25 pixels all around the paragraph element. Okay, let's go over back to the H1, which is the heading, and set the padding of the H1 to 25 pixels as well and see what happens. That's the padding of 25 pixels for the H1 element. Okay, this gives spacing between the border and the element, or the border and the content itself. Now to give external spacing outside the border, remember we get to use the margin property. Let's now get to use the margin property to push the paragraph away from the heading. We can either set the margin at the paragraph or set the margin at the heading. Let's go to the heading and set the margin. Say a margin of 100 pixels. If we refresh, that's a margin of 100 pixels. You see, the margin property set has pushed the heading from the top of the web page by 100 pixels, pushed the heading from the left hand side of the web page by 100 pixels, pushed it as well from the right hand side of the web page by 100 pixels, and created a 100 pixel gap between itself and the paragraph. So, but this is not the desired outcome. What we want is for the space to be just between the heading and the paragraph without affecting the top of the heading, the left or the right of the heading. How do we tackle that? We'll set the margin bottom property. Margin bottom, set it to 100 pixels. Refresh your web page and this is what you get. Okay, so the margin doesn't affect the top, right, or left. It only affects the bottom because that's the specific property that we set. Alright then, let us proceed to the very next step. But then I want you to observe or notice something about the heading and the paragraph. In fact, first of all, let's make them bigger in font size. Let's go to the H1 and give it a font size of 80 pixels. And then go to the paragraph and give it a font size of, let's say, 45 pixels. Refresh our web page, and this is how bold the content on our web page appears right now. Now, the one thing I want you to notice about this content is that the heading and the paragraph, their colors are white, but never at any point in time did we set the color of the H1 or the color of the paragraph, the P tag, to white. How come they are both white? They inherited that white color from the body element. You get the point? That is the essence of cascading styling. The style from the body element cascaded down to the H1 and the paragraph because in our HTML content, the H1 and the paragraph are inside, or they are children of the body element. So they inherited the color from their parent element, which is the body element. I hope we're getting the point. All right. Should you have any doubts, feel free to ask questions. Okay. In like manner, if we change the color on the body element to some other color, let's say we go to the body element and change the color to lemon, lime, it would cascade down to the H1 because the H1 and the paragraph are the children of the body element. Let's go refresh our web page. You see, we didn't set the color on the H1. We didn't set it on the paragraph. We set it on the body, but it's reflected on the H1 because the H1 and paragraph are children elements of the body, which is their parent element. All right, let's revert it back to white color. Okay. All right, refresh. It's now white. But then any of these children can decide to go prodigal, like the prodigal son, and say, "Oh, please, I want my own color." Let's implement that on the heading. We can go to the heading tag and give it its own color of orange, red, or so. We go and refresh the web page. It is now having its own exclusive and peculiar color of orange, independent of the color the body gave to it earlier. It has overridden the color of the body because it shows its own to be more specific. All right. So that right there is what we refer to when we're talking about cascading styling, in which case the style we gave to the parent element cascades down to the children elements, as we saw in the case of the font color of white, all because the H1 in the paragraph are children elements to the body. Okay.